Welcome again to Ham Radio Perspectives, where we look at ham radio culture, technology, and history all wrapped together in some crazy way. And the only person who's crazy enough to do this with me is right there. I'm Quin, K8QS.
And I'm still Tom, WA9TDD.
Yeah, here we go, Tom. So this gets into the ethereal area, the philosophical area. In fact, if you are willing to watch this all the way through and you send me an email and tell me what you learned, I will potentially give you 3 credit hours, college credit, bogus credit, not worth anything, because this has a little bit of the philosophical stuff, the kind of stuff that I would cover in my college classes. But don't let that scare you away, because it's still fun. It's interesting. The question that we're dealing with is whether or not HF, that is high frequency, HF radio, is the soul, the very soul of ham radio. But let's start out, Tom. What is HF?
Okay, well, HF is high frequency defined. Is actually the legacy playground for hams. It's 80 through 10 meters. You know, you've got broadcast AM on one side and 6 meters and VHF and UHF on the other side. And they're all amazing frequencies for communicating across space through the airwaves, as we used to say. Most hams historically got their start on HF, you know, battering noise and interdependability and undependability, and yet getting super excited when that connection happened.
Right. So that's the nature of HF, and because of the how stable equipment could be in the early days and all, and also because of what the FCC, Federal Communications Commission, before that the Federal Radio Commission, opened up for hams, we ended up in this HF realm. And you know, today a lot of people would say, "What's HF good for?" Well, we got some outfits out there that are trying to take away some of the HF frequencies to use for, I don't know, stock market stuff or who knows what. I don't understand it all. But at any rate, all radio, real radio. You see, radio means people are communicating when they're not in the same geographic space. All right, they're separate, but they're able to communicate in real time. Okay, it's a kind of magic. It's beyond what we human beings could do without special equipment. So right now you're still in Florida, I'm in Michigan, and we can't just talk, you know. We could do it with wire, which is one thing, call up on a phone. We could try to do it in other ways, but to sit at a radio ourselves, our own radio, our own antenna, and to talk over, through, beyond limited geographic space without wires, that's magic, Tom, that gets at the soul of radio and what initially, for many, many hams, got them interested, where the distances can be amazing and the results can be totally unpredictable. So let me mention to you, Tom, just for fun on this, since I'm also a historian of communication. One of my colleagues was in Europe a while back, and he ran across a book from 1924. The title of the book is Wireless Possibilities. It's a little book, and he bought this for a buck, EU buck, and brought it home and gave it to me to look at. And it's written by this A.M. Lowe, the late Honorable Assistant Professor of Physics at the Royal Artillery College. Now, that's a title I would love to have. I'll tell you, man, that's something else. And so listen to what he says, and then let me interpret it for you so you get at this magic of HF radio, which he's talking about in the book. He says, the laziest millionaire today, 1924, in a physical sense, will be hard worked in comparison with the fortunate individual in the scientific future. We will travel in the best possible manner and in such comfort that the mind will be free to receive impressions. Now, what the heck is he talking about? It sounds like mystery. It sounds like it's religious. like the Holy Spirit or something out there. Well, that's what he's talking about. He's talking about the fact that through radio, we're going to be living in this magical world where two people can sit there, relax, and exchange their impressions with one another. And at the end of the book on radio, he starts talking about the fact that he thinks we'll even be able to do this with what becomes television, see each other. That's the magic, Tom, all the way from 1924 to the present.
All right. Well, from the magic of high frequency to the soul of ham radio, it's where distance, unpredictability, and human connection come together in a way no other part of the hobby can match.
I love that, Tom. The way distance, you said, distance, unpredictability, and human connection come together every day. This is happening in ham radio. And so in a sense, Tom, HF is still the place, if we can call it that, exists in the ether. They used to call it the ether, the airwaves, is the place where physics feels like wizardry. There's the soul, wizardry.
Right. On HF, when you're not just using radio, you're negotiating with the ionosphere. Signals bounce and bounce and bounce again around the world. Skip zones appear and vanish, sometimes for seconds. Sometimes they reappear. Sometimes they disappear. It's a magical, ethereal experience. Gray lines open up a magical 20-minute window across continents. A 5-watt QRP signal suddenly goes, 7,000 miles. It's amazing.
I thought about this, Tom, the other day when we were talking on the phone, and I called you. You said, you just got off of digital. I think you were on 10 meters, or I believe it was 10. And you said, yeah, I just worked, and you gave me 4 or 5 countries around the world.
Right.
And I thought to myself, this is like magic. You're running this low power with a little antenna, and you're working these countries all over the place. And you see them coming through on your little screen, and you line up so that your signals are on the same frequency. Right. And beep, that's not a good imitation, but you know how it sounds. It's magic. And Tom, at the same time, in this soul of HF, a $10,000 station, heck, make it a $20,000 station, can get stomped by a little guy with a wire in a tree, an end-fed antenna. He's got a 40-year-old radio. He's got 10 watts or less, but he's got patience. And he's got luck along with that little bit of pluck. And he makes it right through. And you say, how the heck did that happen? I feel that way all the time when I hear these pileups, for DX and all these people out there. And you look at some of them up on QRZ because they're coming in about 60 over 9 trying to get that DX station. And they got $1 million in that station, And then this other guy gets right through to the DX station, and you look him up on QRZ, and he's got just a couple little things there about his 100 watts and an end-fed antenna, and he beat the other guy. Oh, this HF is the fun soul of ham radio.
And HF is kind of a magic, and that you can't control nature. Human beings will never be able to fully master, even as they become more skilled at it. Nature takes over. Conditions change.
Yeah, they do.
Distances change. It's ethereal, and it's an aesthetic pursuit.
Yeah. Now, we agree that outside of HF, there are things out of our control that can change and make it fun. Like shooting your 2-meter signal across a body of water, picking up the right, what do they call that when the signal zooms through over the water, Tom?
Refraction.
Yeah, in a narrow little spot where there's an opening. Somebody will post down below. We're getting old, gang. Come on, we're in our 70s. We forget some things. But HF is this way all the time. It's I love it when I love 17 meters. I'll tune on 17 meters. There's nothing going on. Turn the rig off. About 10 minutes later, I'm ticked off. About 10 minutes later, get a cup of coffee, sit down, turn it on. The whole band is active.
Yeah.
What happened? Okay. So the soul HF is where most of the oldest and deepest memories of ham radio were forged. So in my ham radio career, when I think about the things that I most remember, they are related to crazy things, fun things, exciting things, adventures, completed contacts unexpectedly, and so on HF. Now, that may be a product of our age and what we grew up with and all, and it may be just as much fun and just as much magic on the much higher frequencies for people today who are using their little satellite dishes, and they're getting a signal, 500 feet away at some ridiculously high frequency. I get that. But I think most of our memories today for hams are forged through HF.
So long live HF. Whether it's digital or analog, one hop or two, long path or short path. Master users and everyday novice amateurs can have a ball on HF. And that's where the soul of ham radio lies.
We think so, Tom. So let us know what you think. Again, we're not trying to put down other bands, other frequencies, and all different ways of doing it, satellites and all the rest. But there's something about HF that we think is closer to the soul of ham radio in its history than anything else. Let us know what you think. Subscribe, ring the bell, do whatever you got to do to get your little thing going to stay in touch with us. Thanks so much. This is Ham Radio Perspectives. I'm Quin, K8QS.
And I'm still Tom, W89TDD.
The guy. Great fun, Tom.